night, so it's great that you wish to chat to the team here. So we say thank you very much. Just a little bit of housekeeping. There are no fire alarms planned for tonight, so if a fire alarm does go off, please exit the building as quickly as possible. And you all know where the conveniences are if you feel you need them throughout the meeting. So thank you all again very much for coming out tonight, and I'll hand you over to the Police and Crime Commissioner for Essex, Mr. Roger Hurst.
Don't read that then, you forgot the word fire. Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner. I'll stand up because I'm not quite sure I can see those at the back, but when we're doing the Q&A we'll probably all sit down and Glenn can handle that. So thank you very much all for coming this evening. Really good to see you. I'm Roger Hurst, I'm your Police, Fire and Crime Commissioner. We'll go along the table and just do some brief intros in a moment, but the usual format is we do the intros, I say a few words, just kind of a bit of scene setting about where we are and what we think we're doing, but the main business of the evening is the question and answer session. What we're really here for is to hear about your concerns, see if we can actually pick up on them, resolve them this evening, give you the information you need to have or take away actions. If we can't do that, then we do undertake to make sure that we are going to get back to you at least via our website, where we'll publish the answers to outstanding questions when we publish the note of the meeting. So you should be able to follow up there. The meeting this evening is being recorded, and that will be uploaded onto our website so others will be able to watch it. Obviously we'll identify ourselves. The camera is only pointing at us. It won't turn a look at you. So when you ask a question, if you want to introduce yourself, please feel free to do so. If you want to be anonymous, that's entirely up to you. Then neither your name nor your picture will be appearing on the website, just so you can feel comfortable about that. You don't need to feel embarrassed about that. Okay, so let's just go along the line and say hi.
Evening everyone, Mark Inglestone at Southwest Group Commander.
Good evening everyone, my name is Tony Atkin, I am the Temporary Superintendent for the West Local Policing Area.
Evening all, Michael Devine, I'm the Assistant Director for the Community Safety Partnership at Thurrock Council.
Thank you. So hopefully we'll have some questions that are targeted at each of us, or perhaps questions that all of us need to answer. But please, just ask what you want to know about the Police, Fire and Rescue Service, the funding and organisation thereof, and how we work with your local council when we get that far. From my perspective, I mean, we are in a decent position, I think, in Essex now in terms of policing and fire and rescue. Nothing is ever easy, is it, in these times of tight public finances, but we have invested pretty heavily in both services over recent years. And I'm really pleased that I was actually having a briefing today about how successful we've been, or Essex Police have been, in reducing homicide across the counties. So we are now actually, the figures we're showing in terms of homicide per million population, down to 4. So that means on our 2 million total population, 8 homicides in the last 12 months. 8 too many, but that actually puts us up there as being one of the safest places in the world in terms of homicide. It's really good compared with the rest of the UK, the rest of Europe, North America, pretty much anywhere. There are some countries which are safer than us, but not the big ones. So yeah, that's quite good to see. And we've been so that's way down from where we were 10 years ago, when we were experiencing something like 30 homicides a year in the county. And that's been a huge amount of prevention activity by Essex Police. A big shift towards prevention as we've made the investment in policing, understanding the causes of crime and getting ahead of those, preventing repeat offenders, preventing things getting worse and escalating. And that applies to drug and knife crime, as it applies to domestic abuse and domestic homicide, as it applies to public spaces and public attacks. So yeah, of course we want to get better, but actually that's a real success. Similar success in terms of burglary, similar success in terms of other crimes in the public sphere, on the street, etc. So street robbery, antisocial behaviour. But there are some areas where we really do need to continue to invest and do need to do more. Not least amongst those is protecting women and girls. We have not been successful so far in reducing the level of rape and sexual assault in the county. And that's an area of clear focus right now. We have had some success in turning the tide on domestic abuse, some really innovative activity by Essex Police there, particularly around dealing with repeat perpetrators and helping them understand how to change their behaviour. So stopping reoffending in that way. But there's more to do there, definitely more to do there. And of course we have the more recent phenomenon, such as the big surge in shoplifting we've seen since COVID. That's something that we are working hard on. We've changed the way we did things back in May, working much more closely with the retailers, using CCTV evidence in court much more effectively, getting early guilty pleas from repeat offenders, focusing on repeat offenders, using the techniques that we've used in other areas of crime like burglary, where we've been focusing on repeat offenders, to do the same in the retail crime area. We have slowed the rate of increase, but we haven't turned it around yet. That is a job which Essex Police is still busy with. And we have been more successful actually with the spate of vehicle crimes that we were seeing. There was a big surge there a couple of years ago. We were seeing a 20% increase year over year. Thankfully, again, with innovative techniques, working out how to bust the gangs that were doing it, but also with the support of the vehicle manufacturers. When I see Jaguar Land Rover myself in Coventry, they committed to spending £15 million on retrofitting security to their vehicles, which they've done now, I think, back to every Jaguar Land Rover sold since 2017, which has helped change the trajectory there in terms of volume of crime. And of course working with the border force to stop the vehicles being taken out of the country as well, which was happening quite a lot, actually not very far from here, down until Docks. So that's worked a bit, but we still need to do more to get that down. So there are plenty of places where we need to do more. I hope very much that the government is going to back us with more money. As you know, we did a deal with them, what was it, 2018, where they'd fund half of the expansion of Essex Police and council taxpayer would fund the other half. You've thankfully backed us in that. We have 900 more cops than we had. I would like to go further than that. I would like to have more cops in neighbourhood policing, but I know that the public sector finances are really tight and it's going to be a very difficult budget year going forward. So we have a survey, and we've just done a survey now, it's just closed, hasn't it? And I hope many of you contributed, which is basically asking what level of investment, further investment in Essex Police you'd like to see, and indeed in the fire and rescue service. So both of the services there, and we'll be analysing the results of that and seeing what you've told us over the next couple of weeks before we actually set the budget early after Christmas. In fire and rescue terms, it's been also a big investment in prevention and protection. A lot more firefighters now doing prevention and protection work than they were before, keeping high-rise businesses safe, making sure commercial businesses are as safe as they can be. And again there, I think it's been a real success. 20% reduction in the number of fires and a big reduction in the number of people being killed and injured in fires. But again, we need to do more. The target there has to be zero. And the big thing that both services, I think, still need to work on is road safety. We've seen a horrible increase in the number of people being killed and seriously injured on the roads in the last 2 years. Certainly people seem to learn bad driving or to lose their good driving manners during COVID. We probably, I was driving here from Brentwood this evening, I was undertaken by a very nippy little vehicle that seemed very upset with the fact that I hadn't pulled into a very narrow gap between the vehicle. I mean, I couldn't have done what he did and felt safe, I have to say. It's happening all the time, and the sad news is that so far this year, 58 people have lost their lives on the roads of Essex. That dwarfs the number of people killed by other crimes, and they are crimes. Speeding, drink driving, drug driving, using a mobile phone at the wheel, they're crimes, and they kill people. So please, an appeal to you, if you see anybody in your social circle doing that sort of thing, tell them it's worse than knife crime. Tell them it's worse than domestic homicide. It kills more people. So it really, I get people writing me saying, why have you didn't nick me for speeding? Why aren't your police officers doing things for more serious crimes? There is no more serious crime in this county than speeding. It is the worst. It is lethal. And I do write back and tell them that. That's I think basically a bit of the scene setting I wanted to give. I haven't said much about your council, but I'm sure you'll get some questions. It's not my job to really, I'm not responsible for you. But can we go to the Q&A? Then we'll hand the mic around. Please use the mic, otherwise the video won't pick you up.
And it's also just in case anybody is hearing impaired, so it just helps people and it's for inclusion there. So gentlemen here to kick us off, there we go.
I was interested that you've not mentioned drugs.
Sorry, I did mention drug crime and mention the fact that we've been working really quite hard to reduce the level of drug and knife crime. I mean, it was actually a big part of the success in reducing homicide. We had quite a high level of drug and knife related homicide. We've managed to reduce that. Last year we got it, it's one too many, but we got it down to one.
I mean, I won't say where we're from specifically, because it's a group of us here, because it's an ongoing thing, but there's quite a serious drug situation where the majority of us live, that sort of came to a head this Thursday with an arrest. The unfortunate thing is that guy has been arrested, but his partner, whilst having 2 children at home, is still leaving the house, doing what are clearly drug runs. There are 2 young boys of about 12 years old, I would say, on their bikes, regularly back and forwards. And I'm not here to criticise the police, because I was brought up to respect the police, which I do, and the fire brigade, and I still get nervous when I speak to a policeman. Which very few kids seem to. I think from my perspective, and maybe from the others' perspective, is we've all been very, very active in providing information through Crime Stoppers. Some of us have received some phone calls from the police about that to help them. The bit that concerns me is, other than that, and I appreciate there's a lot of covert stuff that has to go on, but considering the level, and this isn't us just being dramatic, the level of what is going on in our street and has done since April, not one of us has had the opportunity to speak directly to a policeman. And I think that's what would concern most of us, because albeit it came to a head, and I have to say Russell and Alan from the council, our local MP, Jen Craft, have been involved lately, and I'm hoping that what they've done as well has contributed to this coming to, as I say, I don't think it's come to a head, because it's obviously still ongoing. But I think what concerns us is we've all, and we still do even today, although he's gone, our group chat is constant, day in, day out. We've not...
Council, what they're doing about the council resident, because it is a council property, and we have very little help from the council trying to...
Yeah. I mean, there's other things going on. I don't want to go into too much, because there'll be things from your perspective that need to be kept. But I think the concern is we've had so little contact specifically, just to reassure us, we don't need to know anything, because we know that you have to keep certain things covert from that perspective. Hence, I'm using the word covert. I wouldn't use that normally. But I think it's just a little observation that as residents, you know, fingers crossed we're almost there. But it's been 6 months of pretty much hell. Living in our street. I live in the street next to where I was born. I've lived there all my life. In a place that I said it out. I mean, it's always had a bad reputation for some reason, as do other places. But I think, I'm not going to go on hog it all the time, but it's just a case of, I think we're just concerned that we've all been left pretty much to worry without really having any idea of what's going on until Russell and Alan got involved.
In cases like this, obviously there's obviously an issue here, and there's a large group of people here. Would before the panel, comes with some answers, would anybody else like to speak on this issue?
You pretty much said it all.
Yeah.
We all feel.
It may be, Glenn, that more questions will come after we've given a bit of a response. But we don't want to. There will be other things in the meeting as well. But perhaps we can give 5 or 6 minutes to this before we go any further. And can I just say thank you very much for bringing it forward. Obviously, it is a significant concern, and drug and knife crime is one of the key 6 priorities in the Peace and Crime Plan. So, if I didn't emphasise that strongly enough in my but it does matter. It really does matter. And I'm really sorry that you've had to live through. You said 6 months, but I'm guessing it's probably a bit longer than that. You probably think it's 6 months since the activity started. But that's probably been getting worse for a good deal longer. I'm sorry you've had
So
to.
the police have been brilliant in every respect in that sense, in terms of I can't imagine why we realise they have to build up the case and that sort of thing.
As you say,
But it's when you're living it, and we're in a street where really you can only experience it. We're not in a through place. You can only go in and out of where we are, and to the extent where we all witness sometimes up to 60 events a day. Sorry, yes. Sometimes it can be up to 60 times a day.
I don't feel safe. It's, you know, it's horrible for all of us.
And the other side of it is the welfare for there are 2 minors in this house that are being left on their own while the parents go out a lot of the time off their head as well. And then this afternoon I've come home from work and I've witnessed someone who was obviously, I presume the guy's phone's been taken because one of his regulars turned up today at the house shouting out for him, and the guy's obviously not there. But that's how it is. We live our days by who's that going up the street, what was that van, who did this, who did that. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, a couple of sorry, just I'm trying not to argue, but the other side of it is racism. Some of the racial comments and attitude to our friends behind us here is beyond, you know, yeah. To the point where a lady behind me was actually feeling a little bit concerned for the other half after what happened on Thursday until she got home, and it's all been caught on camera, the abuse that was thrown out the window, the language and the racist comments. How they live next door to them, I do not know.
And that does aggravate the whole situation. You're absolutely right. It's truly horrific. So I think that the superintendent would like to say a few words. I mean, obviously we're going to try and avoid identifying exactly what you mean, but I'm pretty sure on that.
First thing what I would say is there is a colleague here that afterwards, if you could speak to and give them details.
Yes, sure.
But it is about, the most important thing is about reporting. I know you mentioned Crime Stoppers, and absolutely encourage reporting it through Crime Stoppers. But I also, if you've got the ability and you feel confident to, actually report it directly to the police through either 101 or 999 if it's an emergency. So I'll deal with the drugs first, and then I'll move on to the hate crime, because that is just as impactful. And we want to make sure that we capture it all. So drug offences, what I would say is there has been a noticeable increase within Thurrock around drug possessions. That's because police are going out, we are being proactive, we are dealing with those that have been identified through the community that are either dealing drugs or possession of drugs. Now, the best way to tackle drug crime is identifying those that are at the higher end of the supply chain. If you hit people at the lower end, all that will happen is somebody else will pop up. So it is vitally important that we build cases against those that are at the higher end of the chain, because it cuts off the head of the snake as such. That does take time, and I apologise the impact that has on communities, because what I recognise that ultimately for yourself 6 months is a long time to live in that. But what I would say is that there is always, as long as you keep reporting it, and absolutely be the eyes and ears of us, i.e. if you see cars come in, take down the regs, constantly contact us and tell us about it. If you see police officers in the street, tell them about it, keep reporting it, because the more information you give us, the more it helps us identify those that are involved, maybe at a lower level, that we can then employ different tactics. Yeah, and without that information coming in, that is probably the hardest thing about policing is, unfortunately, the amount of times I've gone out, I've been your district commander before I got promoted for 3 years in Thurrock, and I've been to many community forums, and the thing that I always say is you need to report it to us. If we don't know about it, we can't action it, we can't tackle it. And unfortunately, having gone out and spread that word, spread that message, and the councillors within the audience will know from the meetings that I have, the emails I send them, that is a very key message I send out. We are still not seeing levels of the crime that are being reported that I hear at forums. So an example, at the moment we are still seeing a reduction in crime in Thurrock by 303 offences, that's 1.9%. It's at the lowest levels it's been pre-COVID in Thurrock. It's real impressive, but I don't get that impression when I go out to the forums. Now it's either that people are not reporting it, whereas that people are fearing crime and then and not necessarily witnessing crime, but the actual what's being reported or what's being committed is being reported to us, and we are sort of having that impact. I'm hoping it's the latter, because that means that we're doing our job really well and we're preventing crime. But it's so important that for us to be assured of that, people need to report stuff that actually they see or they witness. And going back to the drugs thing, that is so important, because for us to tackle it, we and go and get warrants and go into houses and things like that. We have to show that the intelligence is not just one neighbour that's having a dispute that is making false allegations. If we're getting it from multiple sources, then from a magistrate's point of view, they're more likely to issue a warrant for us to go in than if it was just one neighbour, because there are unfortunately people in our society that will make things up because they want to create problems for others. So that's one thing I want to put a point. So moving on to the concerns around child safeguarding, and that is a real concern. What I would, after this meeting, we'll sit down with the officer, we'll report it. I will go and look into that, because at the end of the day, if there's a safeguarding concern, it's not just on police, it's around social services as well, and making sure that they are taking appropriate action. So we'll look into that. Obviously, I won't necessarily come back to you, because unfortunately data protection, that wouldn't be the right thing to do. So lastly, the hate crime, and that is really, really impactful. Hate crime has a huge impact on communities, and we know that causes cohesion within communities to break down, causes division. So if that is so with that happening, what I would say again is it needs to be reported. If it hasn't been reported, come report it. There's an officer there to report to. If you have reported it, come speak to us, because I will still want to go and look and find out what's happening. With hate crime, we have to go to the Crown Prosecution Service in order to get a decision around what the next steps, whether a prosecution is, because there are certain offences that only the Crown Prosecution Service can give advice on the next steps. We can't make that decision. Policing, we are there as evidence gatherers. We are not there as lawyers. We're not there to make decisions. There's only very limited offences, which is predominantly traffic offences or the lower level crime offences, where we can make a decision whether or not someone should be prosecuted. In all other offences, that is the Crown Prosecution Service. But with hate crime, it's not just about dealing with the perpetrators. It's about what other work we can do to prevent these crimes going forward. And it's work we do with the council. So you already mentioned that this person may be a council tenant. There is lots of work that we do with Thurrock Council, and it has worked. So places such as Tilbury, we've had, and again, I just emphasise, it's not something that we can deal with overnight, but there's been instances within Tilbury, as an example, where we've had families that we know are causing huge problems to the community, that are really impacting the community. And it's not just hate crime or drugs, it's like ASB, it's theft of motor vehicles, all the things that really impact people's daily lives. And we've worked not only in prosecuting those individuals, we've worked with the council around other avenues like ASB injunction orders, tenancy condition, and then ultimately then eviction. These are levers that we use, but they're not things that will resolve things overnight. They do take time, and with evictions, for example, there are occasions where it's taking years. Yeah. So it's but what helps that is the reporting. Just because you don't see anything happening, please don't stop reporting, because once you stop reporting, the evidence that we can show a magistrate, a judge in a civil hearing around evictions, it dries up, and then they look at it based on, well, this happened 3 years ago, there's nothing in the last 3 years, why should we evict? And it makes our jobs a lot harder. So I'm hoping those have answered those questions.
Can I just ask on that, on the reporting, and believe me, I mean, you don't know our case specifically, but we've all become very good at Crime Stoppers.
Sorry, if you just take the mic off.
Sorry, that was my phone. 1, 2. 1 and 2.
Did you want to?
There we go.
Yeah, we've all become very good at Crime Stoppers. Everyone's reported literally everything that you've reported. One thing in terms of, I would have no issues.
Sorry, I'll check that. Thank you.
I know me personally, I wouldn't have any issue coming direct to the police. It's just that from the start, the council ASP guy that we've been dealing with, suggested that we only do it through Crime Stoppers. But I know, probably not everyone, but I know some of us will be more than happy, because believe me, we've all spent a fortune on CCTV. There's lots of things and that, so I know I would be more comfortable to speak direct. So afterwards, obviously, we can discuss that.
Just waiting for Glenn to get the mic, because we're on camera, we need to have the mic.
I've got some more.
What I would say, so Crime Stoppers were reporting for those people that weren't confident coming forward to the police. They were afraid that by reporting it to the police and being seen to report it to the police, that there will be repercussions. If you are happy to report it directly to the police, that is really vital, because the information stream that we get from Crime Stoppers, there's always a delay. And not only that, if you are giving information to Crime Stoppers and you're not necessarily giving the right town, or you only give a road name, you can imagine, for example, the High Street, as an example, there's the High Street in every town and every city up and down the land. So then actually then trying to identify what High Street it is, that then causes problems. And we don't always receive the right information from Crime Stoppers because they've not been able to attribute it to the right area. So reporting it directly to the police is always the preferred method, but I recognise that some people don't feel confident in that, and that's why Crime Stoppers, we actively encourage in those circumstances to report to Crime Stoppers.
Thank you.
Do you want to ask Michael if you'd like to say anything about that?
From a CSP point of view, so a community safety partnership point of view, we would be very interested in all of the information. I work really closely with the police. I chair the board, and we are driving towards a community strategy so that we can work with communities in regards to what is affecting yourselves, rather than us telling you what crime is affecting you because of the statistics. So we'll be working on that moving forward, and I hope that next year's priorities within the CSP will reflect that quite heavily. In terms of reporting, a council tenant for ASB stroke drugs, I will admit we will take a back seat to the police for obvious reasons. In matters such as that, we wouldn't get involved. We would happily, as the superintendent has suggested, we will work with the police once they've got a solution. So we'll use every string in our bow, as it were, to try to combat the problem. And evictions is just one of many, as been said. But you can be certain that between myself and all of the officers under me, we do liaise with the police weekly, and some of those officers daily. Yeah, I think I echo what's been said. You must report. The moment someone stops reporting, stops telling anybody about a problem, the data disappears, and I'm unfortunately the person that has to sit there and say, well, if the data doesn't support your request, then I'm going to say no to it. And then my officers get really annoyed because they know it's a problem. So report it and get the data on the paper, and then resources are allocated to it. So that's my message. Thank you.
Just add to one thing, just to give you an idea with, so there has been increases around about 25% in drugs offences. However, that increase also comes with an increase in solve. We solve around, in regards to possession of drugs offences, we solve 95% of those offences, and that's because they are found by police, and those that are found with drugs, they're banged to rights. So it's really, really important that if you are seeing it, definitely report it. And as I said, it is the upmarket that we target.
I'm going to suggest that we move on from that particular issue for now. We may well come back to you at the end for when you've had a chance to think of a couple more questions. But then, if we could.
Yeah, certainly. Well, I just wanted to ask, was that a follow-up question to this?
It was basically just regarding about the council tenant. That was all. Apologies if you explained it, I probably didn't understand it. It was just basically what I'm trying to understand is if why it has to go to court regarding for them to be evicted when they've broken every single rule of their tenancy agreement. If they've already broken it, pretty much every single one, in my eyes, it shouldn't really go to court. But obviously, like I said, I don't know. So that's just my question.
No, it's a really valid point. I think what I'm trying to explain is that depending on the type of offences, we would involve ourselves either early or late. And we can quite easily become part of the solution at the very end. So once there's a conviction, we can press forward with evictions, we can press forward with other different outcomes that would in effect shut that down. And then we can also involve ourselves really early, depending if police want involvement or not.
If you stop it going to court, then you do it yourselves, or it has to go to court regardless.
An eviction, that must go to court.
Right.
An eviction must go to court for us to get an eviction, unless someone signs over their property to us and decides that they don't want to live there anymore. I've not come across that when people are there breaking the law, etc. That tends to be for other reasons. But any eviction, we would need to go to court.
Question from Marie at the back.
I'd just like to add one thing as a hate crime ambassador, something that has not been very clear. I'm sorry, Tony, if you can clarify in case anything has changed, but when it comes to hate crime, anybody is allowed to report that in anonymously, so you don't need to leave your details as far as I know. Do you know, Tony, if that's still the case?
Technically, that's the case with all crimes. So you can report a crime anonymously. The only thing I would say, and this is where obviously we want to encourage people to report, but ultimately we want to deal with the matters. And this is where it's really important to understand that if you report something to us, we will investigate it. But if you don't want to pursue it, actually it makes it really difficult to tackle the problem, because ultimately the law as it stands in this country is that the person that is accused has a right to a fair trial, and that is to have the accuser tell the jury what's happened. Obviously in certain circumstances we can prosecute somebody where there is evidence without the support of a victim. But that evidence could be like CCTV, it could be other witnesses. We're not going to get that in every case. The best form of evidence is a victim coming forward that is then supported by CCTV, by witness statement. And I think there is unfortunately through TV and through drama series, I think sometimes there's a misperception around that, because people feel that if you report a crime it's going to be solved in 30 minutes, because that's what it says on TV. That if you go to court that you're going to be shouted at because that's how they dramatise it, you won't. There is a real fear from the public around what court is. Court is basically you going there, telling a jury, telling a judge what you've experienced, and two barristers, one that will represent the prosecution, one will represent the defence, asking you questions. I've been a police officer 25 years and I've never seen a barrister shout at somebody as you see on the TV, but that's what people see and that's what they think is going to happen. It is so important that if you are a victim of crime that you'll be willing to go to court and give evidence, because that is the way that we tackle this, and that's the way we then take these people technically off the streets if they've committed serious offences where they could be imprisoned. That support is really vital.
May I just add, we've also got the wonderful Essex County Council Service, which is Essex Wellbeing Service, and so I would recommend in addition you reach out for your own personal feelings to that service, because they can help you personally. It will also be then a log to go back to Thurrock Council, so you can always build a team wellbeing case. That would be my suggestion in addition, because I don't see how it wouldn't help. That's what they're there for.
Thank you, Marie. Who's next?
Thank you, gentlemen over here. Thank you for your patience.
After listening to what we've listened to, our show's a bit futile, a bit.
It's all.
But I'm from the allotments, and there's a lot of people from the allotments here, and we've had one break-in after another. This year's been the worst year ever. It has been so many sites have been broken into, and it is reported. There's no response from the police. There's no response. They're giving them numbers, but nobody ever goes round. A number of years ago, we did report it on our site. And it was 6 weeks later, a young lady turned up from the police and one of the boys said, well, we'll lock them in a shed, but if we lock them in a shed, by the time you get out, they'll be bleeding dead.
Not a good idea.
And there's other people here who would like to say things, I know, and they've actually put cameras on the site. We've sent the police pictures of the people, and I believe there was some talk about trying to get DNA, looking for cigarette ends to try and get the DNA, because we're getting no response at all. None of the sites, and there are so many sites on Thurrock where they're just going through all the allotments. And the frustrating thing is, in the sheds, we tell people don't leave stuff up there that's valuable, but they smash the sheds locks off or cut the chains, and there's nothing for them to take anyhow. But you've got to imagine how frustrating it must be for some of the people that are working hard. And there's other people here, and I'm sure would like to say something about the allotments. Could I pass it over to...
Should we take the allotment?
Yeah, do please.
Okay, we'll take the allotment issue. So this gentleman obviously has something to say.
Yeah, I'm from Pim's Place allotment, so I agree with what Brian's saying. The problem I'm very concerned about is the well-being of the older generation, because when they lose their wives or husbands, it's a place to go to speak to a community, and that's what I'm really frightened about. That once these people go, the allotments will start fading away, then the whole thing will just fall apart and we won't have no allotments at all. That's my biggest worry. What Brian said is true. We actually, I've been broken in twice. Silly little things have gone. I had a police officer. I'm in contact with Grace, a lady on the...
You just hold the mic.
Sorry. A lady in the police at Grace is coming Saturday to come and see us, to see if we can improve ourselves, the safety. But these allotments are self-managed, so we haven't got a lot of money we're only getting our subs income, and we scrape around for bits of fencing and stuff, and the council won't do anything because we've been self-management for 20 odd years now, and we have to do our own repairs, buy our own padlocks, buy our own chains, repair everything. So it's hard for us. It's very hard for us. But as I say, we've got a lady coming down Saturday. I've got to supply tea and biscuits for her. She said lovely, and she's just going to see what she can do. But yeah, that's all I've got to say really. Yeah.
Would anybody else like to add to the allotments story? There we go.
Hi, I'm from Enfield. So we've had 4 break-ins in the last 4 months. Each time has been reported to the police, but the problem is it's reporting allotment. You haven't got the right facilities on your online reporting. So I do it over the phone, I've done live chat, but when you go onto your online, it's so difficult because there's no section for allotments. So do you register it under a business? No. So you have to register it personally. Now ours is in a field, so we haven't got a door number, but obviously I have to do it as my address, which is so wrong because really that's not right. And then the last ones before incident, this incident actually, Hayley Dines has put on there, can the owner contact me? Well, I've stated specifically it's an allotment site, we don't have an owner. So for us to report it is so difficult, and like they said, we don't get any response. We're all self-managed and we've had brilliant footage and still the police did nothing about it. You know, we've had nothing was done, and as I say, in the last 3 weeks, 12 sites have been broken into that we know of, just in the Thurrock area, and like Mark said, it's affecting people's well-being, especially the older generation. It seems such a shame because
my only concern would be we've only had a break-in 2 days ago, and instead of being in the middle of the night when we've had footage, this was at 20 to 6 in the evening. Now we know obviously it's dark, but we do have ladies on their own that sometimes are still attending the site. We have headlamps that you probably would use, even if it's just tidying up or something. So now I feel, as a woman, I can't go go to my allotment on my own when it becomes dark because I'm concerned now. And there is one individual that we know that has done all of these break-ins, and he's becoming brazen now. To be coming that early in the evening when he knows that there could be people on site.
And we've got good fencing.
Yeah, we've got very tall fencing with the bars that go so that but he can find his way in. We're never going to stop him.
I deal with that bit first of all. So if you know the person that's doing it, how do you know that it's that individual?
Not personally, we've got very good footage on 2 occasions. One of the occasions he actually took the whole lot of cameras, so we know they've gone to a good cell. But no, we've got 2, and this one that was just a matter of days ago.
Okay. And you still have that footage?
Yeah.
Okay. Afterwards, if you come speak to myself and my colleague, we'll take down your details, we'll look at that. So what happens is that when you do live chat, when you contact 101, when you report it online, and I recognise that the ladies, the frustrations you've mentioned with 101, I'll feed that back to our contact management centre. I think allotments would be classed as a business, and I think that's where the route that you would have to take. The issues we have with how it's the reporting mechanism is that it goes through to our contact management centre. They have to make an assessment as whether or not there is evidence that's likely to identify the offender and whether or not that could be pursued. Now, if they've not asked the right questions, or if you've not put in the online submission around CCTV, they're making assessments based on the limited information, so they wouldn't necessarily ask you about CCTV. So therefore, as soon as they make the assessment that there is no likelihood of identifying the offender, they will record the incident and they're likely to close it off. What I would say though is it's so important that you report it, because ultimately the data that we use from my operational point of view and how I deploy my neighbourhood policing team, how I deploy the local policing team, they look at the data of reported crime and they utilise that to put into their patrol strategy. And ultimately, if you start seeing hotspots around certain areas, including allotments, we are more likely to be visible and attending those areas during those peak times when those reported offences are happening, because we want to catch the person in the act. However, we come back to the fact that you mentioned the CCTV, you've identified an individual, we need to act on that. So what we'll do is after this, we'll take that information, we'll look into it, we'll get the footage from you, and we will then personally take on that investigation. I recognise the gentleman, and I think it was a gentleman at the back, that highlighted around the concerns, and any break-in, whether it be an allotment, whether it be a shed, whether it be a garage, whether it be a house, has a lasting impact on those people that are having stuff taken. And we recognise that, and we will do everything we possibly can to identify perpetrators and pursue that. Where we have identified perpetrators, we will pursue them and bring them to justice. So it comes back to what I've said, and I know I'm probably going to be a broken record tonight. It's really important around that reporting, and it's really important that we not only reporting it, but you are highlighting. If you've got CCTV, that's perfect. Highlight there's CCTV, there's images. There is what usually goes into our desk-based investigators is they should then say, send you out an email with a facility that you can upload those images onto our digital asset management system, which is basically our collection of CCTV. Now, I recognise maybe the feedback around what then happens is probably poor, and I will take that away and we'll see how we can improve that. But where there is, where we identify from that, and it is, sometimes the footage is really poor that you can't identify individuals. If there is footage that clearly shows somebody's face, there are systems that we have that then can help identify them if they are known to the police. And if identified, we will then conduct a full investigation to then try and collate the evidence to then bring them to justice. But if you're not telling us about CCTV, we're not going to know about it. Well, we can certainly take that away and look into that and find out what's gone wrong.
That used to come around years ago. Oh, sorry. Have you got a fingerprinting team that used to come around years ago?
So you've got a crime scene officer that would come around.
All the fingerprints, because a couple of things that they could have. I said to the lady at the desk that, you know, there's a few things that we haven't touched for a while. i.e. our box with our generator in, it could have had fingerprints, and she said, well, I can't help you with that, but have you got something that could come out?
There would have to be an assessment, because ultimately, again, this comes back to the TV. So there are perceptions because of dramatisations of police programmes that every surface you can get a fingerprint from. The truth of the matter is that fingerprints can only be taken from smooth surfaces. So if it's not smooth, so if it's like, for example, a shed door or a wooden panel, if it's not smooth, you're not going to get a fingerprint from that. So there is an assessment that has to be conducted as to what we can retrieve, and again it comes down to how it's then reported. Because if you say that my window's been broken into, or say for example a window's been broken, things have been taken, they will look at it, well, if a window's been broken there might not be anything, but if you say the window's been broken, there's blood there, then we're going to certainly send a crime scene officer down, because they're going to want to retrieve the blood. So again, it's about reporting, but it's about how much information you're giving. Obviously, if there's no blood there, please don't say there's blood there, because then it means that we're yeah.
Help me get him, punch him on the nose.
No, I do want to come back to your point though. So I did find it funny. If you identify somebody and you lock them in, tell them there is a suspect there. That's a 999 call. You will get an immediate police response. You won't wait 6 months and they won't be dead.
Tell them you're making a citizen's arrest.
Yes, and that's exactly as Mr. Hurst said. That sometimes I think we might risk arrest. Ultimately, if you see a crime happen and it is safe to do so, because I would never ever encourage people to take the law in their own hands, because ultimately you don't know what that person might have on them. If you restrain somebody and they've got a weapon on them, they will turn on. They potentially could use it on you. So I would never ever encourage it. But if you say that they're in a shed and you're able to lock them in, and they're not there legitimately, so they're clearly breaking in, I would think it's very unlikely you'll be prosecuted for unlawful imprisonment. I think we would then investigate that, and if they then turn out to be legitimate, I'm sure we could then do restorative justice around sort of understanding.
Yeah, good idea.
Is this a related question?
I'm popping up. I'm not looking at the microphones. I know you're always going to have a manpower problem. Is there any chance you could increase the patrols? Because we could you perhaps, hopefully, I know your issue is with manpower. We all understand that in the public finances, etc. Could you not actually increase the patrols where these cars can pop round and?
So resourcing, resourcing is something that that I, as when I was district commander, Leanne as the new district commander, we always look and we work with our neighbourhood policing team inspector, and we prioritise hotspots, because ultimately, yes, we do have finite resources. And I think I've been to this meeting before where I've turned around and said, if I had a police officer for every street corner, I would have the size of the Metropolitan Police, Thames Valley Police and Great Manchester Police all in Thurrock. Yeah. That's never ever going to be achievable.
Yeah. Sorry, but with the car patrol, could the car, amongst his other duties in the evening, you've got lots of duties that I'm sure you have, that could not they crazy ever run round? They're all in prominent roads, etc. They haven't got to drive up Easton's Lane, that's like
So just to manage expectations, so I've got two different types of uniform policing teams. You've got neighbourhood policing team that is there to problem solve, and they look at those neighbourhood crimes and look at how we can initiate proactive incidents to deal with those issues. You've also got the local policing team, which is that emergency police team. When you dial 999, they will arrive on the blue lights and sirens. To give you an idea of resourcing, my local policing team, if everybody was in and on duty, that's 20 PCs for the size of Thurrock. So just to sort of manage expectations. What happens with a night duty? They are tasked, they get patrol plans, they look at those hotspot areas, and this is why I say reporting is so important, as they do patrol hotspot areas. But ultimately, their main focus is to respond to those 999 calls where there is a threat, harm, risk.
Well, thank you very much. No, thank you.
Thank you. And just one more additional thought for the gentleman at the back who was saying that you're self-managed and therefore you have a struggle with investing what you need to do. I have PFCC got a community safety development fund, which is open to bid. So if you've got an allotment association, go online, the programme's there, put together a bid and come and ask us for some money, because we're really interested in helping you stop being a victim of crime.
The only choice is how far do you go with this? Because I mean, some of them are like fortresses. The trouble with some of them is that we rely on
I'm not.
the back of the houses.
So the question is, how far do you get? How far do you go with it? Well, I'm not trying to say that's the whole solution, but if there is some stuff you think you could do, don't be afraid to come forward with a bid to the fund. Okay? Thank you.
Okay, lady's been very patient there, and I'll just pass this over now.
A few weeks ago, I came across someone fly tipping, and funnily enough, they were blocking the driving entrance of the local allotment. It's not time. Anyway, so once we established that it was actual council ground and not private ground, because he seemed to think it was okay to dump on private ground, he started to clear up and got his fly tickets back into the back into the lorry while I was hanging around. And while I was hanging around, I walked up the road to establish how he got in, and there was a broken lock, so that was reported, and I rang the police. Now, while I rang the police, that entrance is in Rookery Lane in Little Thurrock. Now, the operator said we don't have a Rookery Lane in Grays, and then I got told off saying it's not a very good system. What I've got here tonight is the postcode and the name of the cottage, which is the building at the end of that lane, because when I spoke to the resident of the cottage, he said he had a problem with the fire brigade years ago. Now, this could be a matter of life or death for these people in the lane, and also it is quite secluded. You know, we don't know what, you know, you could be on your own and something happen, and you're not going to get anyone come. So I wrote it down, and I would sort of like a reassurance tonight that the next time that we bring something in, it is put onto the system. Their daughter did get it put onto Google Maps, and I've gone on and checked, but what I had noticed, although it's got the name of the cottage and the postcode, they've called it Rookery View and not Rookery Lane. So it really does need to go on now. Because a lot of fly tip happens down that road as well. It's always been reported to the council.
Thank you. I know that there are occasional incidents like that, and sometimes the system isn't perfect. I mean, I've caught one in myself on the borders of Epping and London, to be told that I was not in Essex. I put them right as well.
Yeah, I've got that.
I do know where the county boundary goes. That's part of my job. But there's a little bit there. I mean, do you want to say a bit about what 3 words? Or because
I was just going to say, in addition, I'll catch up with you at the end of this meeting. If I could have the postcode, but more importantly, if you've got the what 3 words, what I'll do for you this evening is I'll contact our service control. So I'll make sure I'll give you that assurance piece whether we've got it. If not, we'll make sure we log it, so we put it onto our Guardian system.
Yeah. Just might be worth explaining what 3 words are, so I'm not sure everybody would know.
I do apologise. For those that aren't aware of what 3 words, it's a free app that you can put onto your phone, download. It gives its 3 square metres everywhere in the entire globe. So you give 3 specific words, it'll tell us within 3 square metres exactly where you are. So we should be able to find anywhere on the planet, to be quite honest. So within Essex, we do strongly advise people to download what 3 words. If you're not aware and don't have that this evening, it is literally standing exactly where that gate is, and we will have that exact what 3 words. Thanks for your
it is, particularly the more rural you get, the more useful it is, because we've got so many cases where the postcode takes you to the long entrance to a farm or whatever it may be, and it's then can be quite a long way round to get to the right place.
And just on that, when the police did turn up in Brookview, not Brookview Lane, they said it's not an arrestable offence, fly tipping, and I just wondered why fly tipping isn't an arrestable offence, and if not, why not? Because it's antisocial, isn't it?
Yeah, so antisocial behaviour, of course, is not arrestable. It is something which can be a blight on people's lives, but antisocial behaviour is generally not a crime.
Oh.
Fly tipping is one of those things where there is another primary agency ahead of the police in terms of where to report it. Michael might want to come in here in just a minute, but the first one's the council, then the Environment Agency, and then the police. But we get the best results when all three work together. Michael.
Thank you. Yeah, in relation to fly tipping, it's not arrestable, so the council will investigate fly tips. We have the ability to either issue an FPN, or so someone doesn't have to go through the court process, or we can proceed through the court process. It is not unheard of to make an arrest for fly tipping, but it won't be for the offence of fly tipping. So what we do, we will look at other offences that surround the issue. So we only in April, with Essex Police's assistance, a live fly tip was seen taking place on the A13. Police officers as well as my officers attended. What resulted there was we seized the large truck that was depositing the fly tip. The individual was arrested, and I do believe there is a trial towards the end of this year for that. So there are ways of ensuring the legislation can be best used, but the specific offence for fly tipping is not arrestable. But there are sometimes other things, so I always recommend reporting it. The council will investigate it. It is one of my service areas that I oversee. In terms of private land, we can still prosecute on private land. What we don't do is clear up because of the excessive costs that naturally fly tipping costs. However, I would recommend anyone reports it to the council. We are able to then investigate it, and if we're able to prove someone has fly tipped, we'll take action.
Can I ask a question?
Oh, sorry, we've got.
Just on fly tipping issue, you said you can prosecute. Would you ever prosecute without a witness?
We have. In general terms, we issue an FPN because the easiest way to deal with an individual
FPN being a
fixed penalty notice, because ultimately trying to get court time with the backlog that's currently present is really difficult. So if there is a means that we don't have to take up court time but still record the offence and still punish someone through financial means, after all, fly tipping is that's their reason. They've likely undercut legitimate business, taken the waste and then dumped it somewhere. So they do it for financial gain, not because the tips aren't open or the waste isn't accepted, etc. It's greed. And that's what my officers know as well, and that's my position on it. So we do prosecute, and like I say, we worked with the police on the large scale one that we saw in April this year, and we have proceeded that through the courts. It wasn't going to ever be an FPN because of the serious nature, and we're taking that now to a prosecution.
The reason that I asked that, I witnessed fly tipping, wasn't a big matter. It was just, believe it or not, a toy. I witnessed, I caught it on CCTV, of the individual, the vehicle, reported it, had been ambushed by the enforcement officer to provide a signed witness statement, that I was then informed the perpetrator would be given my name, would then put me at risk and my family because of social media, so refused to do that, and have now been told that that case will go no further. Where is the point of making sure people don't fly tip when you've got something like that in place? Is disappointing as a resident.
No, I can understand the frustration. At different times, it will depend on each individual case and the level of evidence that's currently available to the officers. I won't talk around individual cases for obvious reasons. However, if you've got any concerns, by all means, my email address, mdeneen@thurrock.gov.uk, drop me an email. Yeah, certainly can. Drop me an email and I can look into it for you. There may be legitimate reasons why they're saying they require a witness statement, especially if you're producing the material. That might mean that you have to produce it for them, you see. So without going into specifics, there are occasions where a witness statement will be required, and unfortunately the law of the land is that a perpetrator or someone that's been charged with an offence has the right to face their accuser, other than in some certain circumstances.
Yeah,
So,
I was just trying to do a good deed.
no, I can fully understand that, and it's why I want to say, if you've got an issue, then do reach out to me, and I'm more than happy to open a dialogue with people in terms of how my officers have been treating people, but also how we might better our approach to things like flight tip.
Right, we're going to move on because we've got a lot of questions coming up and we're heading towards the end of allocated time. This gentleman here.
Roger. Sorry. Roger, if I can just circle back to where you started in relation to the number of road deaths and...
Can you put the mic a bit closer? Sorry. It is working.
Do I have to push something or?
No, just hold it closer to your mouth.
Just up there.
Sorry, I feel I should be singing.
Can if you like.
Very bad, everyone would leave. If I could just circle back to where you very eloquently began talking about the number of road deaths on Essex roads. I'm looking here at the the plan for to reduce road deaths in Essex and Vision Zero. And there's very little in terms of tangible, it's very fluffy, and I'm a motorcyclist, so if you think driving from Brentwood is scary, you should try being on two wheels. I'm a big bloke, I wear high vis, I ride a throbbing motorbike, and I can next to a driver on his mobile phone, and he won't see the inches from his window, he is so distracted. But police won't see those drivers because they're using the phones down by their down on their laps, you just don't see them. The number of prosecutions for mobile offences in Essex last month is something like 250. So there's no deterrent for basic offences. If you look at the number of drivers who are driving around with tinted number plates to disguise their identity, they've got blinding LED lights that means their number plates won't be seen at night by dash cams and speed cameras, etc. They've got tinted windows, which means 3 of the fatal 4 offences can't be identified. They're all at record levels. There's nothing tangible in this plan to deal with any of those. So if you said, we're going to drug test all new drivers to target teenagers who are using drugs routinely, so we're going to target all learner drivers as part of the driving test, as part of their first driving lesson. That's a tangible. If you said we're going to target people fitting tinted windows, we're going to target the garages servicing these vehicles. They're all tangibles. Nothing. This is all a bit fluffy. On Monday, I reported a driver of a 44-ton truck in the City of London, which is the most policed square mile in the whole country. Over 4 minutes, he was using his mobile phone, and I got him on. I was wearing video glasses, Ray-Ban video glasses. I reported him to his haulage company, and they said, we've got mobile phone, we've got a footage, video cameras in the cab to stop drivers. He covered his in-cab camera to stop what he was doing being seen. But I've got no doubt that footage will be prosecuted by the City of London Police from the video I've submitted. If that had been submitted to the Metropolitan Police, I've every confidence that it would be prosecuted. If I submitted it to Essex, I've every confidence they wouldn't prosecute that.
Why?
But the majority of footage I submit to Extra Eyes isn't prosecuted. Particularly mobile phone offences, even though I have very, very clear footage. If I wear video glasses, I'm capturing the offence in HD quality, video quality. Beyond, I was a special constable in a previous life, and I used to do some of the road safety exercises, and prosecutions would be made on the basis of what I saw. I never had video evidence. It was purely, Your Honour, what incentive have I got to lie as a police officer? the mobile phone user has got every incentive to lie. But clearly articulated offences have not been prosecuted. And I can give you some footage, examples of that. I won't bore everybody with the details now.
I will be interested in having those examples later, because the whole Extra Eyes programme is specifically to enable that sort of thing to happen. And yeah, I'm really pleased to hear that the City of London Police is prosecuting. We work very closely on all sorts of things, and we share technology with them. So if they're doing it, there's no reason why we shouldn't be doing it. I'm just a bit shocked to hear that you've submitted clear video evidence and it hasn't been followed up, because that's why we put the Extra Eyes in, to do exactly that. That is disappointing. It is very serious. When you say that Vision Zero is a bit fluffy, I mean, I think one of the things you suggested there, drug testing for all learners. I think we need new legislation for that.
I'm just giving this as an example. No, I'm saying if you can.
There are some. We do very concrete things. Surround a town. That is a really important strategy for defeating and road crime, and for putting people off from deterring them from committing it. When we do that, we are catching 70 or 100 people on a day surrounding a particular town, stopping people at all the exits, doing the police roadblocks. It's astonishing how many people you pick up by doing that, from all of the offences that you're talking about. We also have, I think, described in the document, some very proactive interventions with school kids, with new learners, about good driver behaviour. And actually that sort of educational influence is probably longer term more powerful than the deterrent, because frankly the sort of people who are doing the bad things, the road crime now, are so often people who are habitual criminals. I mean, when you were talking about flight tipping, I nearly came in and said one of the things that I remember. So it is always worth reporting flight tipping. I was actually on a ride along with a police officer and said, that guy's about to go and flight tip that. So we followed him and he started doing it. The officer pulled him over. Obviously it is not a criminal, it's not an arrestable offence, but started interviewing him. The registration of the car did not match its chassis number. It was a stolen vehicle. He had drugs on board the vehicle. Turned out in the end he was wanted for aggravated burglary. So you have a type of person who is completely careless about the law, treats the law with contempt.
I did.
Can I just ask you to use the mic if you're going to speak?
I probably did dozens around a town exercises when I was a special.
Thank you.
And I didn't think they provided particularly good bang for your buck. Because if you look at things like the tinted windows, you have to be, your location on the side of a street, very often the vehicle had passed before you could see it at tinted windows or at tinted number plates. So I always thought they were more about PR than actually catching some of these offences, or I think there are smarter ways of actually, tinted windows is such a visible, there are easy ways of doing it, and you can deal with it slow time rather than pulling them in. And I literally used to peel them off the side of the road on some of these surrounded town exercises. But it was just slow and inefficient, and the number of offences is too large to deal with that type of initiative.
Yeah, I kind of hope we've sharpened up since then. I'll hand over to the professional.
Road policing is not my area of business, however, I do a lot of work with our road policing unit, and there are many operations that we do on, especially within Thurrock and the west of the local policing area, because ultimately we've got probably one of the most important infrastructure road network with the M25, the M11 in Harlow and Epping. So we do lots of work with Kent Police, with Met Police, with Hertfordshire Police, where we run what operations that we refer to as Operation Claymore, which is us being on the road network and targeting those vehicles that are potentially on chrome plates, those vehicles that could be involved in criminality, but also captures some of the driver behaviours you spoke about, and tinted windows and number plates that are not within regulations are sort of indications of potentially people that are also up to other forms of criminality which are targeted as part of Claymore. road crime and road deaths is something that as a force we are committed to. Obviously 2 weeks ago we lost one of our own in a road incident, so it is something that we are very committed and very passionate to reducing down. But ultimately, to do that we also need the public's assistance, because ultimately it's the public that are engaging in behaviours on the road, such as speeding, such as contravening red lights. Where I live in Essex, we've got what my son refers to as a hamburger roundabout, and that is light controlled, and people, because they don't want to be stopped by 3 separate lights to turn right or roundabout, they will go through it, and they will go through it knowing it's a red light and go through it, and then when they get honked by myself or by somebody else that is trying to go about their daily business, they shout abuse at you. And it's not right, but that is happening with our own community. That's people that are part of the community that are doing it, and the only way we will come together to tackle it is by people within the community upstanding against those that drive in that sort of behaviour. And what my message would be is ultimately we need to make sure that we are saying it's not tolerated amongst ourselves. So that's where where it starts.
That's right, Shelley. So I think we're going to have to go a bit quick fire here. If we're going to get to the rest of the questions, we're going to have shorter questions and shorter answers, and that clearly means me.
Thank you very much, everybody, for your patience. Gentlemen.
Good evening, Roger. Thank you for this meeting, and I'll say thank you for all these people coming along, because you must admit this is one of your best turnouts in Thurrock.
It's a very good turnout, yes, thank you.
I'll quickly want to go on to Neighbourhood Watch. Now, we're quite successful in Thurrock and setting up neighbourhood watches, and we used to have dedicated officers employed by the police. Kevin Blake is one of the names that I can remember, who would visit the neighbourhood watch meetings, update us with the latest what's happening with Essex Police, very much like what you're doing yourself, and he would also provide us with the crime data. Now, that was very, very valuable for us, because we knew what was happening on our wards, on the adjoining wards, we knew where it was happening and what was happening. All we get now is statistics. And I don't know about everybody here, I don't trust statistics. One of the reasons being that not every crime is being reported, so therefore you can't say you know what all the information for your statistics. So I would like to see them brought back, or us getting to see the crime figures as they used to be supplied. Now, the recent FI for Essex Police about DEI said there was £614,565, I think it was, that spent on DEI, which doesn't directly help us as victims of crime or preventing crime. Now that is somewhere where money could be saved, and we could perhaps employ these officers again. And linked with Neighbourhood Watch, I encourage people to report things, which is what you've been asking people to do tonight. You keep repeating it, tell us about it, tell us about it, tell us about it. We do the same with Neighbourhood Watch. But some people have told me that when they've contacted Essex Police, they get fobbed off. And that's just not right, because we're talking about the allotments and we're talking about the cemetery. We was having a lot of criminal damage taking place. There was one occasion where these youths are in there, they set up a camp, they're having a barbecue, they're causing damage, leaving litter, antisocial behaviour, and that person who ran that in was told, you don't know how other people grieve, as to them being in the graveyard. And that person was disgusted about how they were spoken to by Essex Police. And I've spoken to a few others, and they get put off contacting, because they've got to get through that triage for something to be taken seriously, for something to be reported. Otherwise, they're then fobbed off to report things online. It's been explained tonight how difficult it can be to report things online. It puts people off. We don't get the opportunity to stop and talk to police anymore, like we used to, because they're not patrolling regularly enough. So can we get back, getting the crime statistics, and can the force control room, when they're triaging people, please listen to them, what they've got to say. Thank you.
Thanks. I'll deal with it. deal with a bit of it and then hand over to Tony to deal with a bit more. So you talked about the £640,000 spent on DEI. That's basically on recruitment, making sure we reach out to all the different elements of the community in Essex and make sure everyone knows they can join Essex Police. Actually, it's been phenomenally successful. Other forces that haven't had that, I can quote you Thames Valley, have found it really hard to achieve the numbers that have been funded both locally and centrally. We haven't here in Essex. If you look at the Met, where they have struggled enormously, they're 1,600 behind on their recruitment target. We are slightly above our recruitment target. You have the cops to do the work because of that sort of spending. If we don't need to recruit at that sort of pace anymore, you can be sure it'll be very rapidly deployed in the most effective way it can be to the front line. You've got me making sure on your behalf that is going to happen. We are not wasting money, we're just making sure we've got as many cops from the whole range of people in Essex as we can. We're policing all of our communities well, and we need the numbers. You talked about the Neighbourhood Watch link, and you're absolutely right, that was a saving last year. Very sadly, we didn't get as much new money last year as we got new costs last year. So I certainly don't begrudge the cops their 4.2% pay increase. I think after the straits that we've all been through in terms of cost of living, they deserved every penny. I do rather begrudge the national insurance contributions. That was quite a large chunk of money that we had to pay. But if you add both of those together, that was an additional £21.5 million on Essex Police budgeted costs. If you throw in the council tax precept as well, the total additional money that we got, including government grant, was £16.5 million. You can, I'm sure, rapidly do the sums of that. We were £5 million short last year. We did manage to, that was after we managed to renegotiate with the government and get an extra 2.3 million out of them with the support of our MPs. So it wasn't for want of trying, and I really have to say I'm very grateful to the way the MPs engaged with us over that and engaged with the government over that. It wasn't an easy process, wasn't a comfortable process. In fact, it was a very uncomfortable process, with some of them calling for my resignation, which I didn't go. But we did get some extra money, but nevertheless we had to very sadly let 65 people from police staff go. And the people you were mentioning there were hit by that, and that is very uncomfortable. I'm very conscious of the fact that one of the losses has been the detailed reporting. I'm a local councillor as well as being a police fire and crime commissioner. I'm a local councillor in Brentwood. I used to really use that detailed report as well. It told us a lot about what was going on in our local area. That isn't there in that detail anymore. At the moment you have a largely statistical report. We are looking now how to improve that and get back to something which is more meaningful and more useful to Neighbourhood Watch, to local councillors, to partners across the piece, to make sure we can help them help us, if you see what I mean. That's exactly where we need to be. That's probably as much as I can say on that particular topic. As regards fobbing people off, it's always very disappointing to hear as and when that may have happened. If it's always possible to put in a complaint and talk about that particular incident and have it looked into properly. It's not the level of service that I want Essex Police to be providing, and I'm pretty confident from the nods on my left that it's not the level of service that the police management want to be providing, or indeed I think the overwhelming majority of police officers. But I can't say it doesn't happen because people make mistakes.
Thank you everybody for your patience, and we are going to rattle through these because we are on time, but just to this lady here.
Hi, sorry, this is more of a question to the council. So fly tipping is one of the issues that everyone sort of like mentioned at this meeting, and in the past, well, in this year, this whole year that we were here, we've seen a lot of fly tipping in our area, in and around our area. It started off with something small, and then it went to the tenants stealing a trolley and then putting all the rubbish and taking it and wheeling it around to other parts of the area and dumping it across. We raised this countless number of times to the council. We're actually met with responses such as, there's all walks of life, they have children, and basically excusing their fly tipping behaviour. And my question to you is, every time I mention it, we're met with, well, we keep reminding them not to fly tip, and they do it around the communal areas as well, so it's affecting a lot of us. How many reminders would you do before you actually take action? Because frankly, if it was any one of us who's paying full council tax, you probably would have fined us. But with a council tenant, you're sort of being really relaxed, and I don't appreciate that, because we're the ones having to clear up their rubbish, and I don't want to. So I know it's coming across quite aggressive, but that's how much I've actually faced it in the last year, and it's really frankly appalling. From the council, particularly like the housing department, have taken no action whatsoever and keep excusing their behaviour. I'm really appalled, and it puts me off having to say anything. And it goes back to the reporting. You're all encouraging us to report as much as we can, but when nothing's been done, we don't want to report. So you need to take action for us to actually feel like things are being taken seriously. So that's it.
Sorry, this is the same tenant. It's the same tenant, just to make...
If I just come in, what I don't want is for this to be taken over by fly tipping. It's not a PFCC matter, it's not a policing matter really, it is one for the council. I understand that, and there are other things that come into it, but I would happily take some details at the end. Just to explain what may... I know you are not talking to my officers, unfortunately. I do know that because I know the way that I have my officers working, and I know language such as that is not something that my teams do. Unfortunately, when we deal with housing tenants, the different types of offences are graded, and therefore you may be dealing with some other officers that don't deal with fly tipping day in, day out, like the environmental enforcement officers do. So what I'd like you to do is, if you'd like to, I'll give you my details, if you'd like to forward me those emails, I can take that forward, it's not a problem. And it is something that I am working with colleagues in the council over. Only in April we brought together all of the different enforcement functions across the council, so that I take control of all of them. The last piece of that puzzle now is the consideration around ASB and the social housing aspect, because traditionally they are split. Amongst loads of councils they're split. But for me, it promotes the problem that you're facing. You end up dealing with two different departments, and there's nothing worse for a resident going, oh, that's not me, that's them. So I've recognised that, and with the support of the councillors, we're looking to change that so that you do get a better service. But by all means, do email me, and I'll be able to pick those individual circumstances up.
Thank you. We've just got some quick ones going on. There's just a point here.
Yeah, it's only me again. I actually work for Thurrock Council, and I do pick up the fly tipping rubbish for them occasionally. And what I've always done is, if you find any letters or boxes with their names and addresses, if you contact Thurrock Council, they will follow that up. Because I get it all the time, and I just give it to them.
Thank you for what you do.
That's
really good. Thank you.
Okay, we've just got some quick ones as we're over time.
Well, it always gets a bit gloomy in these meetings, so I always like to say thank you to the fire service, as you've got your J9 badges, and people do and should know that with regards to domestic abuse, the fire service is always championing the white ribbon campaign. And before I arrived here, I popped to Grace Fire Service, and you've now got a white ribbon on your lovely signage. However, I did feel you looked quite depressed and that you needed some flowers. I always find it really sad outside fire services, and as Roger knows, because I was in the South End meeting, and the same for Canby. It would be really lovely. It's nice to hear that we've got really good people that do lots of things to grow together. And perhaps we could, as a group of people from the community of Grays, liaise with Mark to find some sort of way to put a flower bed underneath your fire service, and in return maybe you could just send out the fire car to the allotments, as I believe you've got environmental boxes to tick in your green sustainability as a company, so to speak. So we give you some flower beds to cheer up your station.
Bit of mutual.
Well,
firstly, thank you for the acknowledgement. We are supporting White Ribbon. Secondly, on that, you probably don't know, but around the back we do have an allotment. And that's for the mental well-being of the crews there. They've decided they wanted to do that, so they do have their allotment, and thankfully ours is quite safe, unlike some of yours this evening, but then ours is predominantly well guarded. With regards to the offer of the flower bed, I'll definitely take details with you. I'm sure they'd love to support that and support you as a community. So thank you very much.
And sometimes it's social media that can actually help alleviate problems in the community. Now, I've also found that a lot of people like to run the police around and don't care who's the victim of crime about that. It might be they've suffered crime and therefore they're taking out a council who thinks it's been allotment or whatever. County's just been done at the same time. Whereas if the fire service sometimes get involved, this sometimes can just alleviate a few little problems. Just a suggestion.
Thank you, Marie. Thank you for that.
Can I just ask, sorry, Glenn, can I just ask, how many here are actually small business owners, run small businesses in Thurrock? Do you know about the Dawn campaign? So domestic abuse is something that is a priority for Essex Police, it's a priority for all our services, and it is so important that we make safe havens for victims of domestic abuse, and one of that is small businesses, making businesses, so those employees that come to work, to know that is a safe haven from domestic abuse. But not only that it also gives them the opportunity to be open and discuss it, and hopefully then forward that details onto the police. There is a campaign called the Dawn campaign. Huh?
Oh yeah.
I should know.
Angela can do that.
But no, if you go on the internet and Dawn, and it's as in Dawn, I will find it and I will certainly give the details. But we are actively trying to encourage small businesses to get involved in that campaign, because at the end of the day, domestic abuse incident is one too many, and what we want to do is work with small businesses, work with communities to try and drive out that behaviour, to really make it that domestic abuse won't be tolerated in any society.
Can I ask how you convey that at the moment to small businesses?
So we have a business crime team, and they are working with small businesses. They go into small businesses, they highlight that. There is also the people that run Dawn, that go through the Essex Chamber of Commerce, that is really pushing that. I think at the moment they've got around about, now it's off the top of my head, I think it's around about 124 businesses behind the campaign. It might actually even be more.
Do you have any literature on it?
There is literature online, and certainly what we are trying to do.
It's in paper format.
Not that I have on me.
The only thing, I work for a bank, and I would say delivering any literature into a bank, especially when businesses are going in to do their banking, that would be a great way to get it out there.
Well, if you can tell us the bank, obviously to the side, we are definitely so. Obviously, this is a campaign that's run separate from Essex Police, but we are.
We can pick up on that.
Yeah, we are
really
pushing that.
Is it nationwide or is it just local?
No, it's an Essex invention.
Yeah.
It's really good and it's working really well. But as you can hear, it's sort of kind of Tony's promoting it because it's kind of nascent. But the banking ideas will pick up on that. It's really good. Yeah, thank you.
Have we got time for
Are we about there?
one more? There's
One
just
more.
One more. We'll go from.
I had a resident via our neighbourhood watch who can't be here tonight, and she asked about there's changing the speed limits along Woodview and the old A13. And one of her questions was, are these being policed? And I couldn't answer that one. But one specifically, she was saying on the old A13, it's really poor signage. You can hardly see that it's changed. So if you've always gone along there, you might not notice it at all. The signage is really poor, but so is the layout where the two schools are opposite, Treetops and the Alsett Heath School. Her husband was involved in an accident where someone had went into her, and she was particularly concerned. You know, people don't realise, because again the signage is quite poor, but you've got 2 lanes going up to the traffic lights, and then it quickly goes into 1 lane afterwards, and it's causing a lot of problems. But that, I guess, is more highways. But
thank you. I understand. I know the junction you're talking about, the new one that's been created. Really, I don't think there's a surprise. Let's say that there are accidents at new traffic junctions. People take time to understand and get used to it. In terms of the signage that's currently present, I'm not going to guarantee that it's legal, but I can almost guarantee it because it would have gone through a number of processes to be approved through the Highways department. However, I will take it back and talk to the Highways team. I work quite closely with them because I also have parking enforcement under me, so we work quite closely with that team because they create all of the signs and the lines. Yeah, so I do know that one, and what I can say is that I will take it away. I'll highlight that people are feeling that the signage is lacking, let's say. However, what I do know is they do have to abide by a number of regulations, and it's very unlikely that they're not doing that. But I will take it away for you.
Thank you. We're at 8:30, so thank you all very much indeed. We've certainly found it a really, I'll stand up again, so you all really found it a very useful evening. I mean, some big issues have been raised and things that perhaps haven't actually been landed, because it's always tricky to spot the patterns, so it's really good to have these sort of meetings where people bring issues forward and make the links, which really help the services work out what needs to be done and what sort of plan and intervention we can have. And clearly a lot of the issues here this evening have been related. So we're really appreciative. It's a fairly filthy night out there, so it's really good that you've taken the trouble to come. Perhaps we should do more meetings in places that actually have bars attached. Can't be a bad idea. Might encourage more to come, but thank you so much. It's really, really helpful.
Thank you all for coming. Thank you.
I'll say thank you, Roger. What I've done is that door